Bonjour everyone, I am Anne-Lise Cailliez and welcome to Parlez-vous CEO, where we ditch the corporate talk and get real about entrepreneurship. Each week, I chat with founders and CEOs who build businesses their way, through the failures, pivots, and breakthroughs. And they bring the fire. Plus, I'll drop some golden nuggets of wisdom from my own entrepreneurial journey. This is your space to grow, learn, and evolve with a true growth mindset. Remember, success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Now let's kick things off and get this party started. Hello, bonjour, bonjour, hello, and welcome to another episode of Parlez-vous CEO and our special real estate series. My name is Anne-Lise and I am your host. For those who are just joining the podcast, we're Brandora and we specialize in helping real estate companies scale their revenue. If you want to learn more on how to take your business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs and we read everything. So we have a very exciting guest today, Bethany Babcock. Hi, Bethany.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here with us today. Could you share with us in your own words, could you give us an introduction about who you are and your story?
Sure. So I consider myself a little bit of an industry outsider that managed to find a way and break into commercial real estate at a really young age. So I was about 18 and I've worked in commercial real estate now for almost 22 years. So I've worked in positions from property management to leasing to investment sales to eventually running a company here in commercial real estate. So it's been a very wide breadth of experience in different roles, but enjoying the journey. And then my passion is developing other people to be able to enter into the industry with us.
Thank you for sharing, and that's awesome. Could you tell us a bit about the story of how Foresight, your company, was born, and then how CRE Launch was born?
Yeah, definitely. So to know a little bit about how Foresight started, it'd be kind of important to know when I moved into investment sales, I met my mentor there at the same firm that we were both working at, which was a large publicly traded firm. And eventually my mentor became my partner and we started working on all these different projects together and decided to work on everything together and form a team. And that worked out really well. We worked together for 6 years and it was kind of his pushing or encouragement that I leave and go start a management and leasing company because the firm that we worked for only did sales. And we were referring that out to other companies. And he's like, you should do this. This is what you used to do. I can refer business to you. You can refer business back to me. This will be a really good partnership. And at first I kind of thought, well, shoot, does he not want to work with me anymore? And why does he want me to leave? But eventually I came around to the idea. It took a lot of convincing. And I really wasn't very happy at the firm that we were at. I was really only there because I enjoyed working with him. And the culture and the environment there just wasn't really working for me anymore as a new mom. I thought, well, I need to probably make some changes. And so I did. I naively thought that starting a business would give me more free time, which is really ironic and hilarious looking back. But nonetheless, we started in 2014 and it was off to a pretty strong start from the beginning, but it got to the point where it was large enough and we were getting enough business that it made a whole lot more sense for my partner to leave the firm where we were at and come and join me full time as well. And when he did, we became a full service firm. And so that meant we had investment sales, leasing, and management all under one roof. And that I really viewed as kind of catalyst. It just threw us into the next level of growth. And so now we manage about 85 shopping centers in San Antonio. We lease about 100 between San Antonio and Austin. And we have a team of 37. And so it's really grown into a wonderful experience. But on that, we always say we grow at the rate of people. And finding the right people has always been a struggle in this business and getting really, really high caliber people. And so that was kind of the thing that started the CRE Launch program. It was to solve our own problem.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love how it started from your mentor having an idea and saying, go do your thing, start your own thing. And then he started working with you afterwards. You're saying that in your line of business and you have 37 hires, finding the right talent and the right team members has been a challenge. Could you tell us more about that and why it's been a challenge? What are the qualities that you're looking for and that you don't necessarily find easily?
Yeah, we look for high integrity and we look for humility. And humility is not something you often see in commercial real estate. There's a lot of big egos and a lot of bravado, and that just doesn't fit in with our culture of our company. We're a little bit more laid back. We're very, very, very client focused. And so we're all like, hey, if you got to fall on the sword for a client, do it. You know, it's not about our ego. And it is hard to find people that have that same kind of mentality in this business. There's a lot of strong personalities, really, really strong egos. And so we try to say, hey, we take our work really seriously, but not ourselves. Relax. We're going to tease each other. We're going to have a good time and we're going to get some work done. And so finding that group of people has been challenging, but you also have to pair that not just with people that you get along with and you enjoy working, but also have a tremendous amount of experience, especially on the property management side. It's a very low margin, high liability business. You need experience and you need a lot of it. And so typically most of our hires are coming with 15 to 20, even 30 years experience. We even have someone that's been doing it for 40. So we look for a lot of experience and it's a grind trying to stay on top of all of that as you grow and identify those key personalities.
And so you're the one who started the company initially alone and you wanted to go into property management and leasing. Can you share with us the story of your first client? So maybe even your first client, and how did you find him or her, or was it a shopping mall? Like, can you tell us a bit more context?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, I had left on my own, but I still had my partner right at the other firm, and so he was referring business to me, and he was still very involved. And so the first client we got was a client that had asked a few times, "Do you guys do management or leasing? I really need help. I want to sell my property, but it's in really rough shape." And we kept saying, "That's not what we do. We don't really do management or leasing." And we referred her to a bunch of different places, and she was unsatisfied. And so finally, with Chad's encouragement, I said, "Okay, yeah, we'll do it." So we started with one property, just that one. And it was a challenging assignment that no one else wanted, and we really had to work extra hard on it. I wouldn't say it was profitable, but it was a place to get a start. There was a reason why no one else wanted it, right? And so we managed to have success in that. We managed to get that deal done and get it stabilized and go from 30 to 95% and get it full so that she could sell it. But it was a lot of work, and we had to be very creative because she didn't have the funds for tenant improvements. So after that project, we started getting referrals in from the old firm that I had worked at. I didn't understand, and I don't think the agents that were sending the stuff understood either, how different leasing was from investment sales. So there was an education process that we had to go through of understanding where is a good place to spend time. And so we were working on a lot of assignments that were low rent, really large centers that had lots of tenants already in it so that you couldn't repeat those concepts. And so when you have an 85,000 square foot center with a bunch of 1,500 square foot centers, you can't do a nail salon because you already have. You can't do hair because you already have hair. You start to run out of ideas of different concepts that can go in there if you're in a Class C center in a market that's not very strong. And so going through that process, we learned this is not a good use of time. One, it's not profitable. Clients aren't going to be excited because they seem to think we can fix this, and this is a market problem. It's not an us problem or a property problem. So we were trying to figure that out, and we realized that we do best on newer construction, higher rent, and expanding submarkets. And so when we shifted our focus over to that, we really started to see a lot more success as a business, as a team, and started to actually enjoy what we're doing.
So after how many clients or projects did you say you understood, okay, we need to shift focus and pivot to work with new constructions instead?
It was fairly early on. I would say it was in the first year and a half. So maybe 5 or 6 clients that we were working on at that point. And breaking into that new world with new construction and the higher rent stuff was a challenge. We were a new firm. I wasn't coming over as a leasing agent, so I hadn't built a book of business and I hadn't had a reputation for doing that yet in the industry. So it was very difficult to have someone give us a shot and be like, all right, let me bank everything on you and hope that it works out. So it was challenging to get that first assignment.
So how did you do it in the beginning? So you had referrals from your previous partner, but how did you build your book of business being new and entering in the market? I mean, I'm sure you had authority from your work before, so you were not a new name, but how, when you start your own business, different, you become the principal, how did you attract new clients in the beginning when you didn't necessarily have the credentials or the case studies?
Yeah, it's a good question because when I was working in investment sales with my business partner, I was using his name, right? He had a great name and a great reputation. I was going on my own. I didn't have that. No one knew who I was, especially not in the leasing world. No one knew who I was because the leasing world didn't really know what was happening in the investment sales world. So I didn't know any of the agents. I didn't know any of the tenants. I was starting from scratch all over again. So the first client, when I was like, we have to work on newer rent stuff or this business model doesn't work. We have to work on the higher rent, newer quality properties. And so I went to a developer that I knew that was building something, and he said he was interviewing some of the big firms, the typical alphabet firms, the larger ones. And I kind of blurted out one day, I'll do it for free. And he laughed at me. He's like, you don't even know what you just volunteered. This would take all of you and all of your attention, and it would take all of your time. And you don't even know what you're asking. And you don't even know what you're doing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to throw it out there, And he came back a week later and he said, I accept. And I thought, okay, let's go. And he was right. I did not know what I was doing. It was a lot harder than I thought. I learned on the go, but had to work extremely hard. His expectations were very, very high for the rents that he wanted to achieve for the market. And it was an unanchored center, so it was extra difficult. But we got it done. And that did change the trajectory of the company to put us on those higher rents, because then we started getting referrals for that as people saw, wow, they got those rents, they got those tenants. Okay, they're hustling, they're working around, they're not just throwing a sign up. And so it finally worked, and that did change the trajectory of the company.
Wow, so you really took a shot, because I'm always hesitant with free work, right? So
Yes.
how did you structure that? Do you say I'm going to work for free for 6 months, for 1 year, like forever?
I told him I would do the whole project for free. And I think what's really interesting about that, and I meant that, like I really meant that. I was willing to do it because I knew I had no choice. I had to break into that world, or I didn't want to continue the business. And so that was it. There was no strings attached. I would do 100% of the pre-leasing for free. He was a really unique client and a really good person, because he came back later after everything was done and his construction was funded. And he starts paying out the commissions to the other side, the people that represented the tenant side, not the landlord side. And he said, send me your invoice. And I said, no, I made a commitment. I said I would do it for free. And he said, send me your invoice. And I said, I said I would do it for free. And I really meant that. And he said, well, I didn't really think you would, so I'm prepared to pay you. And so I said, no, I feel like I'm going back on my word now. And so I worked out an arrangement with him. I said, how about I do it for half of what normal market is, because I had a lot of learning in here, and you had to really hold my hand and teach me a lot on this, and pretend that you were my broker, right? And I'm splitting with you then, and I'll take it for half. And he said, okay, fair enough. And so he sent me a check for that, and that was enough for me to hire my first employees.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure that's going to be very useful to the audience, because I mean, especially when starting anew, you're always wondering, should I give that for free, or am I not like asking for my worth? So it's a great example of it can really work out, and good clients, especially if you bring them success, will pay you. It always works out in the end. That's a great example of that.
I think the thing that made it different from just working for free, one, he didn't ask me to. I volunteered it. And two was, I wasn't getting paid what I was worth because I wasn't really worth anything yet. I didn't actually know what I was doing. And so it wasn't fair to the client to pay for me to do something that I didn't know how to do yet. And I didn't want to charge someone for my learning experience. And so I felt like that was key. If a client asked me to do that today, the answer would be no, because I am not building that book of business anymore. I'm not building that experience. I know what I'm doing, and I do have more value. So I think it was just an awareness of where I was or was not at that time, and that it was necessary to move to the next level.
Yeah, that's a great story.
And I was very fortunate with him, because he actually did pay me.
Yeah, I mean, fortunate, but also you put in the work and you were successful. So, the value of what you delivered spoke for itself as well. And I heard you mentioning that before you started your own company, you were under a broker. And so you were really using his brand authority. Is that something that now you look back on and you think, maybe I should have started branding myself earlier?
No, not necessarily. I was working under him in investment sales. I was 23 when I got started. I had no name. I had no experience. He did. It was 2008. No one was selling anything. It was an incredibly difficult time. I had a lot to learn at that time about specifically the soft skills as well as the real estate skills. And so going on every meeting with him and learning how he responded to objections, how he handled the challenges, how he underwrote, how he dealt with problems, and advised clients, hey, don't panic, don't sell. Here's a way you can stay in the game for a little bit longer until the market stabilizes. I had so much respect for him. And I got to say, it was a conscious decision that I was like, I can't compete against that. Like that's, if I were the client, I would not choose me. I would choose him. And my goal right now for the next few years is to become as much like him as I can professionally. And so that was what I did. And I don't have any regrets on that. And so I built a name under him. And no, I have no regrets on that at all.
That's great to hear that. And why, when you were 23 and it's 2008, why did you decide to go into investment sales in the first place at the time?
Yeah, that's an interesting story as well. So I got into the industry extremely young. I was 18. I had just moved to the United States. I needed a job very, very quickly. And so I went to a temp agency and they took me to a family office by mistake. It was supposed to be an insurance company, but they gave me the wrong job sheet. So I ended up showing up to temp at what I thought was an insurance company, and it turned out it was a family office. I owned a lot of office buildings and shopping centers. And after some confusion between the two of us, they were like, "We'll interview you anyways." And I ended up getting the job as a receptionist there. So I worked there for 5 years while going to college at night, and it was a wonderful experience because I got a ton of industry experience and enough money to, not be homeless.
Mhm.
And but it didn't pay much. But I also got promoted several times. So by the time I graduated college, I had 5 years of work experience. I had already
Mhm.
worked as a property manager and had some great experience. I thought the world was going to be wide open to me after college. Then the
Mhm.
financial crisis hits. Nobody's hiring anybody in commercial real estate. Everybody's on a hiring freeze. And suddenly I realized nobody wants me. This is really, really tough. So I lost my job and I had to find another one. And I'm thinking nobody wants to hire anyone right now. And so the only position I could get was commission only investment sales.
Mm.
And I was kind of forced into it. And I thought, well, I thought I might want to do that someday. So why not now? I got nothing to lose. And so I did.
Wow. So how was the beginning of being an investment sales broker?
Horrible. It could not have been worse. Yeah. I think I did break company records for the most proposals and meetings to listings, meaning I was
Mhm.
striking out all the time. I was failing more than anybody else.
Mhm.
So I was not winning and building sales records, but I was building a solid book of people who said no. And so that was very challenging and extremely humbling. And I just felt like I couldn't get ahead. And this was
Mhm.
a terrible market, And so
Mhm.
I think at the time I remember looking at the Walmart greeter and being like, man, must be nice for him to get a paycheck on Friday, I was
Mhm.
just like, this is rough. And it was
Mhm.
incredibly humbling. But to be honest, I quite needed it because I felt like graduating from college and having 5 years experience and I had already been in management. I thought I was all that. I had so much more to learn, and I really needed that humility. And then I got beat down by the market.
Mhm.
Finally, it took me years to make a decent living,
Mhm.
but it was rough, and I can't overemphasize that enough.
Thanks for sharing. And do you feel that your experience learning investment sales and commercial real estate is maybe something that influenced you into starting CRE launch?
Yes, definitely. So I felt very fortunate because I managed to be at the right place at the right time with the right people, both for
Mhm.
my first job and then landing my mentor. And if it weren't for my mentor, now business partner, I wouldn't be in this business. I
Mhm.
really wouldn't. I would have burned out. I would have thought, man, there's nobody like me here. Everything feels a little slimy, a little too much bravado and big egos, and that's not my personality. And I just didn't know if it was going to be a fit. And so I was really thinking of leaving before I had met him. And so with starting the Scary Launch program, it was just about creating something similar for others who are coming into the business so they don't leave and
Mm.
trying to give them that warm welcome into the industry and the tools they need to succeed.
And have you seen more women entering the commercial real estate industry space?
Yeah, so this is, I've been doing this for 20 something years. I remember my very first ICSC, which is a
Mhm.
big retail conference we do in Las Vegas. And there's, sometimes 40,000 people that are there. And I remember people would say, how would I find you? I'm like, I'm the girl, and I would joke with them that I was going to be really easy to find because I stuck out like a sore thumb at the booth. All these guys in navy blue suits, and I'm, 5'2" and a girl. So I was like, I'll be easy to find. So that first year, I was pretty obvious, that it was a mostly male dominated field, especially on the investment sales brokerage side.
Mhm. Right.
But every year I go back, it seems less and less so. It seems a little bit more balanced. And so I definitely am seeing a lot more people come into it, a lot more ladies.
Good. I'm into that. Tell us a bit about the marketing you're doing for Foresight and the marketing you're doing for CRE launch. What are some things that have worked and some things that don't work at all?
Yeah, it's a good question. Still kind of learning what doesn't work because I'm willing to try just about anything.
Mhm.
When it comes to foresight, one thing that was really important to me early on, and something a lot of people told me not to do, was don't spend a whole lot of time on, the marketing materials and the e-blasts and the aerials and stuff like that. They were like, you're going to get pegged and classified in this industry as being an assistant. And people will always view you as an assistant if you spend so much time on that instead of going out and generating business. And they were right, but I didn't listen. And I fell in love with the whole marketing process, the visual aspect of it. I wanted to make sure that we were communicating quality and high end. And I was obsessed with the branding and I was obsessed with the messaging. And I wanted to make sure that we were clearly articulating the opportunities. And it became my obsession, right? Well, that worked really well because when I started a firm, a lot of the people that I was doing that for at my old firm, even though that wasn't really supposed to be my job, they followed. I was like, hey, we know that she can do that for us, right? So it was just that same service, but under a new banner. So that's kind of a unique journey there and the opposite of what a lot of people told me to.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I've noticed is so that I would say that the visual branding has been huge for us, making sure it's high quality. It's also the last thing I delegate. It's still the thing that I micromanage the most, even as the company grows. It's been very
Mm-hmm.
hard for me to let that go. But we've noticed really good success on social media, both on LinkedIn and then recently in the past couple of years on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been a game changer for us. On LinkedIn, it was wonderful because I think people were learning about our company and they were seeing our culture, they were seeing who we were like and what we were doing, and it built excitement and it was wonderful for recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years ago, I started messing around on Twitter and I was like, this is kind of different and weird. And it's been phenomenal and building a brand and I got on there originally because I wanted to promote the CRE launch program.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become much more than that. It has been the CRE launch program has certainly benefited and expanded from it, but so has the Foresight business as well, both from
I
tenant
see.
rep and landlord to client and sales.
So the two companies have a completely different business model. What have you feel has been transferable in the type of marketing you've been doing for Foresight to CRE launch, if any?
Yeah, I think a lot of people that we market to at Foresight become or know the eventual students that go through the CRE launch program.
I see.
Either their kids or themselves, or even attorneys and title officers that'll say, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years, but I only know my side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever taught me what the other side looks like. So they'll put themselves through it just to learn more aspects of it. So in that part, the messaging and brand awareness from Foresight translates very well into the CRE launch program as well.
Nice, so they can work in synergy. And I heard you mentioning you still have issues surrendering control on the branding side of things, right? Can you tell us more about this?
I'm working through it. I am working through it. I have a great team. We have amazing people that are here, but I've learned that that is my obsession. And so I enjoy being involved in it. I get a lot of gratification from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the biggest thing of being able to delegate is making sure that you hire people that you can really trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes both ways. They need to make sure I need to be able to trust their quality of work, but at the same time, they need to trust that I'm still going to be the creative voice and be okay with that and lean into that. Otherwise, we're going to have a conflict. And so I think the team that I have does a really good job of that. We're figuring it out, and I'm learning to let control go little bit by little bit.
And if you had a magic wand that could really solve one big pain point of each businesses, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think for both of them, it would be in recruiting, right? And and that seems to be where I'm focusing a lot of effort in terms of just finding the right team members and building the team, because we can only grow so fast as we find the right people.
I love hearing that. I love hearing how specific you are with the people that you're hiring and how they have to fit culture and how it's not super easy to find people aligning with the values you have in real estate or commercial real estate, maybe even more so. What is your favorite thing about commercial real estate?
I love seeing deals come together and being able to drive by them and be like, I had a say in that. I had a part in that little cafe that's open in that shopping center. I got to do something about that and help that client. Or it might be a shopping center that we've sold. And I'm like, man, I know that when he sold that, he was able to go do this other thing. It's just fun to be a part of the story.
I love that. I love to hear that. And do you have any influencers or role models or leaders, real estate leaders, or not necessarily in real estate, that inspire and that you look up to?
Sure, certainly. It's a long list, and I feel like if I start naming them, I'm going to offend someone for leaving them out. But certainly my business partner, I would say he's been probably the most tremendous professionally in terms of influence on my life and career. So very much him, just his way of doing business is something I want to be like. Others, it's probably brands and different concepts that I enjoy, how they market and communicate with their customers, but it's a wide variety. It's a pretty big group, but I would say as an individual, definitely my business partner.
So, real estate is a 27 type of industry. So what's your routine like? And are you able to keep, I don't know if the word balance is the right word. I prefer to say harmony between work and life.
I certainly try, and I probably fail at it every day, but I think I do okay. One of the reasons why I started the company was because I wanted work-life balance because I became a mom, which very quickly it was obvious that that was a terrible decision because you don't start a business to have better work-life balance. Like it's
Mhm,
just not, that doesn't happen. But I did realize, okay, if I work really, really hard over the next 5 years, I might be able to achieve that if I can build the right team and the right culture.
mhm,
And so that was my focus for the next 5 years, to just build the right team.
mhm,
And so I deferred paying myself as much as I could so that I could hire the right people for as
mhm,
long as I could.
mhm,
And my goal was by the time that my oldest son hit kindergarten, I wanted to be there to pick him up at 3:30,
mhm,
and I wanted to do dinner and homework with him, and then I could do a second shift after he went to bed. That was the goal the whole time. And the team really rallied around that because I told everybody I hired that was the goal. So when he hit kindergarten, everyone just kind of looked at me like, get out of here, go. Right. And so that was pretty cool. And it's still like that. So he's in sixth grade now. And I have
mhm,
two other kids. So I've got three kids. And I leave every day at
mhm,
3:30 and I go pick up my kids with very few exceptions. And sometimes they come back with me to the office. We have a
mhm,
kids room here in the office where they can play and do their homework.
mhm,
And sometimes we go home and then I'll do my second shift after they go to bed.
mhm,
And that has worked for us and it's worked pretty well. I feel like I get to enjoy those really crucial golden hours, I call them, right
mhm,
after school. But then I still get to enjoy the career and building what
mhm.
I want to build. And a lot of times that might be after they go to bed. And I'm okay with that. Maybe it means not watching TV. I don't care.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. It sounds like you really found a way to combine both, family and having a very demanding career, having your own business. And I'm sure that's really inspiring to our audience, especially female, as they're either thinking about starting their businesses or running their own businesses, that it's possible, it's possible to have it all, or have a lot of it. Um,
It is, but you have
yeah.
to put boundaries in place, right? Like I knew I have to, and sometimes it's not that easy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta go. Like you have to put boundaries in place.
And so looking back at your career, your 20-year career in real estate and now being your business owner for 11 years, what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
I would tell myself that it's all worth it and that all the choices that I was making at that time and all the sacrifices that I was making were worth it and hang
Hmm.
in there and keep going.
Hmm.
I'm very happy with the choices that I made in my 20s for my career and personally. And I feel like I reaped the rewards of that later in my 30s. So I would tell myself to hang in there. It was all worth it.
The choices you made in your 20s, I am curious, did you have anyone around you advising you, mentoring you, either your parents or friends or mentors already? Because 20s, like who has a normal, evolved, mature brain in your 20s to make this type of wise decisions?
Well, yes, my parents lived overseas, right? So they were thousands and thousands of miles away. And this was before it was very easy to make long distance phone calls and before texting and all of that, right? So we got
Hmm.
to talk a few times on the phone. But they set such a good example in terms of work ethic. But I also knew I had no fallback plan. So I had to figure this out. And I had just a few years to figure it out. So I needed to hustle and work harder than everybody else because I didn't have the same foundation everyone else did.
Hmm.
And so I received that from them, right? They had a very strong work ethic. And I remember one particular call with my mom that very much set the tone for my career when I was working my very first job. And I was disappointed that I didn't get a promotion after a year. Imagine a year. And I was just devastated that I didn't get promoted, right? It was just adorable 19-year-old naivety, right? And I remember calling my mom just devastated because I said, I didn't get the job. They gave it to someone else. And mom, the worst thing is they want me to train him. Can you imagine? If I can train him, I can do the job. And right. And she was just listening to me and she responded very calmly. And this was a special phone call because these were very expensive phone calls.
Hmm.
And she said, Bethany, I am so happy for you. And I said, I don't think you heard me. I didn't get the job. My life is ruined. I'm going to quit and just go wait tables. And I was just devastated. And she goes, no, I did hear you. The phones are fine. Congratulations, because this shows you do know how to do the job. And if the guy they hired isn't interested in it, because I complained they gave it to someone that didn't even want it, then you just do the job for him because you're never going to get promoted to a job that you're not already doing. So you have
Hmm.
the perfect opportunity to start doing his job for him.
Hmm.
Everything he doesn't want to do it. Do it because you want to put it on the resume for a future job or do it because you'll get promoted eventually. Just do the job. do the job before you're given the job.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so mad at her. And I was like, this is the stupidest advice I've ever heard in my life. And I'm mad. And that was the end of the phone call or whatever. I don't remember how it ended, but I wasn't happy. But I did listen to her. And I did do the job for the guy. And he let me. And when after about maybe 8 months or so, I remember them saying, hey, he's been sick for a while and everything's still getting done. So we kind of noticed a pattern here. And I was like, yeah, they didn't notice, right? And they were like, we want to go ahead and give you the position. And so I was able to get the job 8 months later. And he had a law degree and I was not even a college student. Yeah, I mean, I was I think I was taking classes at community college at that point. And so I learned an important lesson. One, mom is right. And two, you're not going to get a job before you do the job. You have to prove yourself, which carried through to my offering to work for free for that developer and free leasing, right? Earn the job by doing the job. And that became a theme throughout my 20s.
Wow, thank you for sharing. That's really inspiring. Is there anything that you want to leave our audience with? Any piece of wisdom? I call them golden nuggets of wisdom that you would like to share? And if not, that's okay.
I would say that you can learn from anybody. Like maybe you haven't gotten the perfect set of circumstances with the perfect mentor and the perfect boss to learn from. You can learn from imperfect people. And I did learn that from my first job. It was actually really rough. And it sounds like it was amazing because I was getting promotions and everything was there. It was actually a really horrible experience. And there was a lot of difficulties there. And it was very challenging and a very difficult family with a lot of dynamics. And I still learned so much. And I'm so glad that I didn't quit because it wasn't perfect. I'm so glad that I didn't quit. And that's a theme. It's just sticking through it, I think. So no one's perfect. No assignment is perfect. No client is perfect. Got to work through it.
Thank you so much for sharing and for being with us today. Can you tell our audience where they can find you?
Certainly. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me at our website at foresightcre.com, where I spend a lot of my time is for the CRE launch program. And you can find out all about that at cre-launch.com.
Thank you so much, Bethany, for being here and sharing your story with us today. And that wraps up today's episode. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I can't wait to join you again next week. Thanks for listening to Parlez-vous CEO today. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us keep going. And connect with us on Instagram at Parlez-vous CEO. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I know some days are harder than others. On those tough days, think back to why you started. What you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the results yet. Ideas are great, but it's what you do with them that counts. Find everything we talked about today at parlezvousceo.com. See you next week, and you've got this.